A 48-hour search, the tragic case of Amari Hall. On a crisp Sunday morning in November 2021, the quiet extended stay hotel in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, became the center of the nightmare that would grip the entire Atlanta metro area. At 9 a.m. on November 21, Brittany Hall dialed 911 with panic in her voice. Her 8-year-old daughter, Nicole Amari Hall, was missing. The little girl with autism had last been seen between the midnight and 1 a.m. The hotel room door had been deadbolted from the inside when everyone went to sleep. When Brittany woke up, the door was cracked open and Amari was gone. What followed was a frantic 48-hour search that mobilized police, K9 units, helicopters, and hundreds of volunteers. Amber alerts blared across Georgia. News helicopters circled overhead. Neighbors and strangers handed out flyers with Amari's smiling face, wearing her favorite blue Tweety bird jacket. Everyone prayed for a happy ending. But this was not a stranger abduction. The people who claimed to love Amari the most already knew exactly where she is because they had put her there. This is the heartbreaking true story of 8-year-old Amari Hall, a child failed by the very people sworn to protect her. It's a case of unimaginable cruelty, a desperate cover-up, and a community left asking how something so evil could happen in plain sight. Amari Hall was born in 2013. By all accounts from those who knew her before the hotel years, she was a bright, observant little girl who loved music, cartoons, and her younger siblings. She had autism, which meant she sometimes needed extra patience and routine, but in the final months of her life, that routine had vanished. Brittany Hall, then 27, and her partner Celeste Owens, 29, were living with Amari and her two younger siblings, a 6-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy, in a cramped extended stay hotel room in Gwinnett County. The family had a history with Georgia Division of Family and Children Services (DFCS). There had been prior reports of abuse, yet somehow the children remained in their care. On the night of November 20 into November 21, something broke inside that hotel room. According to evidence later presented in courts, Amari was beaten so severely that she suffered fractured ribs, internal bleeding, and blunt force trauma consistent with battered child syndrome. One chilling detail that emerged: her throat had been stuffed with toilet paper, like in a failed attempt to silence her or during the final moments of abuse. She did not survive that night. Instead of calling for help, Brittany and Celeste made a calculated decision. They wrapped Amari's small body in trash bags. Celeste rented a U-Haul truck. Surveillance footage later captured her driving it to a wooded area in neighboring DeKalb County near Juliet Drive and Stone Mill Trace. There, in a shallow grave less than a mile from a residential neighborhood, they buried the little girl they were supposed to protect. Then they went back to the hotel, cracked the door, and called the police to report her missing. The search that followed was massive and emotional. Gwinnett County Police Chief J.D. McCullough held press conference pleading for the public's help. "We have an 8-year-old girl who is in danger," he said. K9 teams combed the hotel grounds and nearby woods. Helicopters scanned from the above. Volunteers walked the streets with flashlights. For 2 full days, the community held its breath, clinging to hope that Amari had simply wandered off because of her autism. But behind the scenes, investigators already had red flags. Brittany and Celeste's stories did not add up. They claimed Amari must have slipped out the cracked door on her own, yet the hotel's security cameras showed no sign of the 8-year-old leaving the building alone that night. The room itself showed signs of disturbance once forensic team moved in, and then came the digital evidence that shattered any remaining doubt. Celeste Owens' phone became the smoking gun. Forensic examiners recovered deleted searches from the days leading up to and immediately after Amari's death. What to do when a child does not listen? Lakes near me. How to report someone missing. How sewers on the street work. and even U-Haul's rental information. Owens had tried to erase the history, but nothing disappeared forever in the digital age. She had also purchased bleach, presumably to clean the scene. Brittany Hall was already in custody on prior child cruelty charges when Amari's body was finally found. On Tuesday, November 23, 2021, just 48 hours after the frantic 911 call, the search ended in the worst possible way, and at approximately 10:45 a.m., searchers discovered Amari's body in that shallow grave in DeKalb County. She was still partially wrapped in the trash bags. The autopsy confirmed battered child syndrome as the cause of death. The medical examiner documented years of abuse, old and new injuries, malnourishment, and the horrified final beating that took her life. Gwinnett County police moved quickly. Celeste Owens were charged with felony, murder, and cruelty to children. Brittany Hall faced charges of concealing the death of another, making false statements, and additional counts of child cruelty. Both women were arrested within days. The two younger siblings were immediately removed by DFCS and placed in protective custody. What emerged in the years that follows was even more devastating. Court testimony and evidences revealed a pattern of horrific abuse that had been going on for months. Hidden videos recovered from phones showed both women physically assaulting the children. Amari's younger sister would later testify in court about the fear they all lived in. The family had multiple prior DFCS interventions, yet the system somehow failed to remove the children in time. Celeste Owens went to trial in December 2024. Prosecutors laid out the timeline with cold precision: the beating, the cover-up, the U-Haul drive, the swallowed grave. Owens remained mostly silent during testimony, but the evidence was overwhelming. On December 14, 2024, the jury found her guilty on all 20 counts, including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, and multiple counts of child cruelty. She was sentenced to life in prison plus 235 years with no possibility of parole. In September 2025, Brittany Hall took a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to felony murder, 11 counts of cruelty to children, concealing the death of another, and making false statements. A judge sentenced her to life in prison. In her plea, she admitted her to role in the cover-up and the years of abuse that preceded it. The case of Amari Hall is not just a story of one terrible night. It is a story of repeated failures by the adults who were supposed to love her, by a system that had been warned, and by a society that sometimes looks away when children suffer in silence. Amari was described by those who knew her as observant and loving. She deserved a childhood filling with music and cartoons, not fear and pain. Today in 2026, the extended stay hotel in Peachtree Corners still stands, a quiet reminder of the horror that unfolded behind a dead-boarded door. The wooded area in DeKalb County where Amari was found has been memorialized by some in the community with flowers and teddy bears. Her younger siblings are grown up in safer homes, but the scar of what they witnesses will last a lifetime. The 48-hour search for Amari Hall began with hope and ended in heartbreak. It exposed the darkest truth about some domestic violences and child abuse cases. Sometimes the monster is not hiding in the shadows outside the door. It's the person who deadbolts the door behind you. What happened to Amari Hall should never have happened. Her story is a painful reminder to every parent, every neighbor, every mandated reporter. If you see something, say something, because one missing warning sign can cost a child her life. Rest in peace, sweet Amari. You are seen, you are remembered, and your story will continue to demand justice for every child who still suffers in silence. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, share, and like for more videos.